Ethan Cole stood outside the large doors of the Queen's private chamber. The guards looked at him with cold eyes, but they moved aside when the signal came from inside. His heart beat fast. He had worked as a medic for many years, but he had never treated someone as powerful as Queen Isabella. Everyone said she was strong and proud. No one dared to cross her. People feared her as much as they respected her. Ethan stepped inside. The room was quiet and full of gold lights from the high ceiling. The Queen sat on a long seat covered with dark red cloth. Her posture was straight, but he saw the pain in her face. Her left side was covered with a white cloth, and a red stain was spreading slowly. She looked at him without moving her head, her eyes sharp like steel. "You are the medic," she said, in a voice that was calm but heavy. "Yes, Your Majesty," Ethan said as he walked closer. He kept his head low, trying not to show fear. His hands carried a small case with tools and medicine. She moved her hand slightly. "Do it fast, no mistakes." Ethan nodded and opened the case. His fingers touched the metal tools inside, cleaned his hands with a small cloth, and took out a soft bandage. When he looked at her wound, he felt the weight of the moment. Injury was deep, near her ribs. He wondered how a queen had received such a wound, but he knew better than to ask. Questions could cost him his life. He took a bottle and poured clear liquid over her side. She did not make a sound, but her jaw became tight. He could see the marks of old scars near the fresh wound. This was not the first time she had fought. The thought surprised him. A queen who fought like a soldier was rare. Ethan worked slowly, cleaning away the blood. His hands moved with care. The room stayed silent, only the sound of cloth and liquid breaking the stillness. The Queen kept her eyes on him as if watching every move. He felt her gaze like fire on his skin. "You are from Earth," she said at last. "Yes," he answered without looking up. "They say Earthmen are bold," she said, "but you look careful."
"I
do my work the best I can," Ethan said softly. He pressed the bandage to stop the bleeding. The Queen drew a deep breath. Her skin was warm under his hands. He felt the lines of muscle near the wound. She was strong, stronger than most men he had met. He wondered what kind of life she had lived to become like this. Ethan reached for another cloth to clean the lower edge of the wound. The seat moved slightly under his weight as he leaned closer. His hand, wet from the liquid, slipped for a short second. His fingers touched the edge of her waist, just below where they should have been. His heart froze. He pulled his hand back fast. The room seemed to stop breathing. The Queen's eyes became sharper, and her lips moved just a little. "You touched where you should not," she said in a voice that was quiet but full of power. Ethan felt his throat dry. "It was an accident, Your Majesty." The seat moved. The Queen did not answer at once. She looked at him for a long time, and he felt the weight of that look like a blade on his neck. Then, slowly, she turned her head away and said, "Finish it." Ethan let out a slow breath and went back to work. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. He knew one mistake could end his life. Yet something in her voice, something in the way she had not called the guards, made him wonder if this moment had changed more than he could see. When he was done, he cleaned the tools and stood up. The Queen still sat in silence, her face calm but her eyes dark with thought. Ethan bowed low and waited for her to speak. She did not speak. She only raised her hand and waved him away. Ethan walked out of the chamber with his heart still beating fast. He knew this was not the end. It was only the start of something he could not yet name. Ethan did not sleep much that night. The image of the Queen's eyes stayed in his mind. It was sharp, but behind them was something else, something he could not understand. He lay on the small bed in his guest room, staring at the dark ceiling. He wondered if she would call the guards and have him punished. Every sound in the hall made his body tense, but no one came. In the morning, the palace was quiet when he walked out. He moved through long halls full of tall glass walls that showed the sky outside. Soldiers stood in rows, their faces like stone. Some of them looked at him, and he could feel their judgment. He knew they did not like that a man from Earth had touched their queen, even for treatment. He kept his eyes down and walked fast. When he reached the medical wing, an officer stopped him. The man wore dark armor with silver marks. His voice was low but sharp when he spoke. "The Queen wants you in her chamber." Now, Ethan felt his chest tighten. He nodded and followed the officer. His steps were heavy. He wondered if this was the end for him. The officer did not speak as they walked through the long path back to the private wing. When they reached the door, the officer gave him a look that was hard to read, and then left. Ethan stood there for a moment, then pushed the door open. The Queen sat by the wide window wearing a black robe with silver lines. Her hair was tied back, and the light from outside made her look like a figure from a story. She turned her head slowly and looked at him. Her wound was covered, and the bandage she placed last night was still there. "Come here," she said. Ethan walked closer and stopped a few steps from her. His hands felt cold, but he kept them at his sides. "Did you sleep?" she asked. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said, though it was not true. "You lie badly," she said, a faint smile touching her lips for a second. Then it was gone. "Do you know why I called you?" "I am ready to accept any order," he said, keeping his voice calm. The Queen stood up slowly. Her steps were firm, and her eyes did not leave his face. She stopped close to him, so close he could see the small lines near her eyes, the marks of years of rule and war. "You think I would punish you for what happened last night?" she asked. Ethan said nothing. He did not know the right answer. The Queen moved past him and sat on the seat again. "If I wanted you dead, you would not be standing here," she said. "I called you because I need you to do something for me." Ethan looked at her, confused. "What is it?" "There was an attack 2 nights ago," she said. "The same men who hurt me are still out there. Someone inside these walls is helping them. I cannot trust anyone here. Not my guards, not my council." She paused and looked at him. "Only you." Ethan felt the weight of her words. "Why me?" "Because you are not one of them," she said simply. "You have no ties here. You have no reason to betray me. And last night, you were bold enough to touch where you should not. That tells me something about you." Her eyes held his. "You are not weak." Ethan felt his face warm, but he did not look away. "What do you need me to do?" The Queen leaned forward. "I need you to watch. Listen. Find out who wants me dead. Bring me their name." Ethan thought for a moment. This was not what he came here for. He was a medic, not a spy. But the way she looked at him made it hard to refuse. There was strength in her eyes, but also a shadow of something else, something close to trust. "I will do it," he said. The Queen nodded slowly. "Good. You will start tonight." "And Ethan," her voice dropped lower, "do not fail me. If you do, it will not end well for you." Ethan swallowed hard and gave a short nod. He turned and walked out, his mind heavy with fear and something he could not name. This was no longer just about healing a wound. It was about stepping into a world of secrets, danger, and a queen who could end his life or change it forever. Ethan spent the day thinking about the task the Queen had given him. His hands moved through his normal work in the medical wing, but his mind was somewhere else. Every face he saw made him wonder if that person wanted the Queen dead. He tried not to show his thoughts, but it was not easy. The walls of the palace felt like they had ears. That night, he left his room quietly and walked through the halls. The lights were dim, and the sound of his steps was soft on the floor. He wore a plain dark coat, nothing that would draw eyes. The Queen had told him to listen and watch, not to act. He told himself to stay calm, but his heart was not listening. The main hall opened wide, with tall doors on both sides leading to private rooms. He slowed his steps when he heard voices. 2 men stood near the end of the hall, speaking in low tones. Ethan moved closer, staying in the shadows. He could hear words now. "Tonight when she meets the council," one of the men said. "The guard by the south gate?" the other asked. "It's ready. It's no mistakes this time." Ethan felt a chill run through him. They were planning something. He tried to see their faces, but the light was poor. He caught a glimpse of silver on one man's collar, maybe a high officer. Before he could move closer, the men ended their talk and walked away fast. Ethan waited until the hall was empty, then turned back toward his room. He needed to tell the Queen. His steps were quick now, and his mind raced with the words he would say. When he reached her door, 2 guards stood there. They looked at him with hard eyes. "The Queen is resting," one said. "I need to speak to her." "It is important," Ethan said. "No one enters," the guard said again. Ethan's jaw tightened. He could not push his way in. That would bring trouble. He thought for a moment, then walked away. He had to find another way to tell her. He moved to the far end of the wing, where a side door led to a service passage. The Queen had shown him this door earlier, saying it was 4 times when she wanted no eyes on her. He pushed it open and slipped inside. The passage was narrow and dark, but he knew where it led. When he reached the small door near her chamber, he tapped lightly 3 times. A pause. Then the door opened a little, and the Queen's eyes looked out. She was not in bed. She was wearing a dark gown and boots, as if ready for something. "Ethan," she said softly. "Shh. Why are you here?" "They plan to move tonight," he said. 2 men. They spoke of the South Gate and the council meeting. The Queen's face did not change, but her eyes grew colder.
Else.
"Did you see their faces?" "No." One had silver on his collar. He sounded like an officer. The Queen stepped back and opened the door for him. He entered, and she closed it fast. The room was dark, except for a single lamp. She moved closer to him. "You understand what this means?" she said. Ethan nodded. "Someone close to you wants you dead." She gave a short laugh, without humor. Someone always does. Then she looked at him with sharp eyes. "You have done well." "Better than I expected." Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest at her words. He did not answer. He watched as she picked up a blade from the table and tied it at her waist. She moved with calm strength like a hunter before the strike. "You are coming with me," she said. Ethan blinked. "Where?" "To the council," she said. "If something happens, I need someone I can trust at my back." Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but the look in her eyes stopped him. It was not a request. It was an order. He gave a short nod. Minutes later, they walked together through a hidden hall that led to the council chamber. The Queen's steps were firm, and her face showed no fear. Ethan walked behind her, his hand near the small knife she had given him. He had never felt this kind of weight before. He was not just a medic now. He was standing in the heart of danger, beside a queen who trusted no one else. As they reached the tall doors of the council room, Ethan knew the night would not end quietly. Something was waiting beyond those doors, and it could change everything. The tall doors of the council room opened slowly, and Ethan followed the Queen inside. The chamber was wide and filled with a cold light from the crystal lamps above. Long tables stood in a circle, and men and women in dark robes sat around them. Their eyes turned toward the Queen as she entered, and then toward Ethan. Some faces showed surprise, others anger. No one spoke for a moment. The Queen walked to the center with calm steps. Her gown moved like a dark wave behind her. Ethan stayed 2 steps back, his hand close to the knife under his coat. He could feel the weight of many eyes on him. He knew most of them hated that he was here. "Your Majesty," said a man with gray hair and a silver chain on his neck. His voice was smooth but cold. "We did not expect you to bring a guest to this council." "This is not a guest," the Queen said. Her voice was steady and strong. "He is here by my order." The man's eyes slid to Ethan, sharp and full of judgment. An Earth's medic in a council of rulers. "Times have changed." "Times change when trust dies," the Queen said. Her eyes swept the room like a blade. "One of you has betrayed me." The chamber grew tense. Some shifted in their seats. Others stayed still as stone. "These words are grave," said another council member, a woman with black hair tied tight. "Do you have proof?" The Queen raised her chin. "I have more than proof. Have a name. And before this night ends, the traitor will stand in the open." Ethan felt the air grow heavy, did not know if the Queen truly had a name, or if this was a move to shake them. His eyes moved across the faces, trying to read them.
Else.
Then his gaze stopped on a man at the far side, a man with silver on his collar.
Ow.
The same sign he had seen in the hall. The man's hands were on the table, but his fingers tapped, fast and restless. The Queen saw it too. She turned her eyes on him and spoke, her voice cutting the silence. "Stand up." The man froze, then rose slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes held a shadow. "Your Majesty," he said, his tone smooth. "I serve you with all loyalty." "Loyalty." The Queen's voice was cold now. "You plan to kill me at the South Gate tonight? You spoke of it in the hall?" Gasps filled the room. The man's calm broke for a second, then returned. "You have no witness," he said. "I have one," the Queen said. Her hand moved toward Ethan. All eyes turned to him. Ethan felt heat on his face, but he stood firm. "I heard you," he said. I heard your words about the council meeting in the south gate. The man's eyes turned dark. His hand moved fast toward his side. But the queen was faster. Her blade flashed in the cold light as she stepped forward. The man tried to draw his weapon, but he was too slow. The queen's strike sent the weapon flying. The sound of metal on the floor rang through the chamber. Guards rushed in, but the queen raised her hand. "Take him alive," she said. Her voice held no fear, only command. The man was dragged away, shouting words of hate. The council sat in silence. No one moved. No one spoke. The queen turned and looked at each of them in turn. "This is what happens to those who betray me," she said. Her voice was like iron. "If there are others, speak now." No one spoke. Heads lowered. The queen gave a small nod and turned to leave. Ethan followed her, his steps heavy with what had just happened. They walked through the hidden hall again. The queen did not speak until they were back in her chamber. She closed the door and leaned against it for a moment. The strong look on her face softened, just for a breath. "You saved my life tonight," she said. "I only did what you asked," Ethan said quietly. The queen moved closer to him. Her eyes held something different now. Not cold, not sharp. "Something deeper, no," she said. "You did more than that." Ethan felt his chest tighten as her voice lowered. The space between them seemed smaller now, and the silence felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The silence in the chamber lasted for a long moment. Ethan could hear his own breath. The queen stood close to him, her dark eyes fixed on his face. There was no anger there now, no cold command. There was something else, something he could not name, and it made his chest feel tight. "You did more than anyone here," she said again, her voice low but clear. "I owe you my life." "You do not owe me anything," Ethan said. "You are my queen. I did what was right." The queen stepped back and walked toward the window. The stars beyond the glass stretched across the dark sky like silver dust. She stood there for a moment, her back to him, her hands resting on the edge of the frame. "You think this is over?" she asked without turning. "I hope so," Ethan said, though he knew by her tone that it was not. She looked over her shoulder at him. "There will be others. Betrayal is like a shadow. When you strike one down, another rises." She paused, then faced him fully. "I cannot fight this alone." Ethan felt the weight of her words. "What do you want me to do?" The queen walked closer, her steps slow and sure. When she stopped in front of him, her voice was calm but strong. "Stay by my side, not just as a medic, someone I can trust. Someone who will guard me when every other sword may turn against me." Ethan took a breath. "That is not what I was sent here for." "I know," she said, "but it is what I ask now." He looked into her eyes, saw the steel of a ruler, but also the spark of a person who had carried too much alone. He thought of the danger, the weight of her trust, and the life he had known before this moment. It all seemed far away now. Slowly he nodded. "I will stay," he said. The queen's eyes held his for a long time. Then she gave a small, rare smile. "Good," she said, "because if you leave now, they will kill you before the night ends." Ethan let out a short breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "Then I suppose I have no choice." "You have a choice," she said softly, "and you made it." The night passed in silence after that, but it was not a heavy silence. Ethan sat near the window while the queen worked at a long table, reading messages and signing orders. He watched the way her hands moved, strong and sure, yet graceful. Once, she looked up and met his eyes, and neither of them looked away for a while. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, the queen stood and walked to him. "There is something you should know," she said. "Ah! What happened last night will not stay in this room. The council will talk. The kingdoms will whisper.
Oh.
They will say the queen has taken an Earthman as her protector." Ethan felt a cold line run through him. "Will that be a problem?"
For them?
"Yes," she said. "For me, no." Her voice dropped lower. "And for you, only if you regret what you chose." "I do not regret it," Ethan said, and the words came without thought. The queen's eyes softened, but only for a moment. Then she turned toward the door. "Come," she said. "We have much to do. The traitor's friends will not wait long, and now they will come for both of us." Ethan followed her out of the chamber. Guards bowed low as they passed, their eyes full of questions they dared not ask. The halls of the palace no longer felt the same to him. They felt heavier, filled with secrets and danger. But they also felt like the start of something greater than fear. When they reached the grand balcony, the queen stepped forward and looked out at the world below. The morning light fell on her like gold, and for the first time, Ethan saw not just a ruler, but a woman who carried the weight of an entire realm. She turned her head slightly and spoke without looking at him. "Do you know what they will call you now?" "What?" Ethan asked. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "The man who stood where no one else dared. The man who touched the queen and lived." Ethan felt his breath catch. He looked at her, and in that moment he knew his life had changed forever. There was no going back to the man he was, not after this. And deep inside he did not want to.